Thank you for tuning in to this workshop video. Finally a workshop video again. Today we are bleeding this Magura Aero RT brake, which is an hydraulic aero brake set. So it is for TT bikes or triathlon bikes like this one right here. It is quite tricky how the brake housing is routed, but that's not a problem, only if you need to replace them. Today we are simply going to bleed them because we have like a spongy feeling on them, which isn't really nice. There are a few points that you need to consider before starting the bleeding process. For one, you need to take this pad distance adjustment screw. I don't really know how it is called, but it's you can find it right here. It's a 2.5 mil hex wrench, and you just screw it all the way out. This, and you will feel that actually we don't have any pivot point anymore, and that's really the sign that we need to bleed it. And then the adjustment is just for if you want to have your pivot point quite at the front or at the back. Next thing you want to do is just up here you want to make sure that the caliper is fully opened. Then we can basically start the bleeding process. What's cool is that the bleeding process from Magura is pretty easy, and I really like Magura brakes because of that fact. You basically need just one complete syringe that is filled with the Magura royal blood, and you have the other one that just basically goes in like this, and you don't have the other part of it. That's really cool. So you go ahead and fill one syringe with the royal blood. Then be sure to just get all the air out of the syringe. It really can help if you just pop your finger against the syringe a little bit, or you can also take a tool and just make them go up and eventually go out of the syringe. And you really want to end up with no air at all. See those air bubbles here that accumulate at the top? You also want to get those out, because exactly those can eventually be the reason that your brakes won't work how you should. Then the bleeding syringe goes right here. We have a 3mm hex that will remove this screw right here, and the filled syringe with the royal blood will connect right here. Then you want to have the brake lever slightly tilted forward, so not even. Most of the brakes that you bleed need to be pretty even, but this you need to have slightly tilted forward. Then we are basically ready to go. Up here we have a 25 forks that hopefully will unscrew, because it's again a plastic one, and I can already see that it's really busted up, so we just need to be really careful with it. Well, I now eventually succeeded, but I needed to use a Torx 27, so a larger one, in order to get it out, because the screw was so damaged. This, of course, I don't really know why Magura keeps doing that with plastic screws, but you can mess them up pretty easily, why they don't fabricate them in metal. So here you just connect your empty syringe like this. You just push it in pretty much as hard as you can, so that it is safely in it. You see that I've placed some empty buckets on the floor, because once you remove the screw, it surely will drip out some of the royal blood. So if you don't want to mess up your floor and having to clean it all the time, just use some old buckets. And then we are ready to bleed. And what bleeding really basically is just we push up the oil from the caliper to the lever. Let me show you how it looks like. Now, if you don't see a lot of air bubbles coming up, that's basically a good sign. So that means there is not a whole lot of air in the system. But it took quite some time actually to get the oil through. So that's a sign that maybe there wasn't enough oil in it. And you can also just pull the lever a little bit to force some air out of the lever as well. Pull on the syringe as well. Always be sure, you see that little air up here. Always be sure, if you push it, that you hold the syringe up like this, so the air goes up in the syringe and you don't push it back in the system. So just pushing up again. And again, we don't have really much air that is coming out. And then you basically want to repeat that process with pushing and pulling until you see that really no air is coming out of the lever or the caliper. And once this is achieved, you can then just remove the syringes from the lever and the caliper, put your screws back in, and do it pretty quickly so you don't use too much oil, and then just clean it with some degreaser or some kind of alcohol solution, and the brakes should be ready to go and working fine. Thank you for checking out this little workshop tutorial for bleeding the brakes, and see you in the next video.